will continue and strengthen the fight against corruption, against criminality, and against illegal drugs.
Special Assistant to the President Christopher Bong Go confirms speculations he will run for a Senate seat by filing his certificate of candidacy escorted by President Rodrigo Duterte.
It's time to be my own person again.
Lawyer Harry Roque formally resigns as presidential spokesperson but drops his bid to run for Senate in 2019.
I regret that, but I have to take responsibility.
And COMELEC spokesperson James Jimenez resigns as focal person of the Local Source Code Review Committee. Good evening. Special Assistant to the President Christopher Bong Go files his certificate of candidacy for the upcoming senatorial race. Senators Grace Poe, Cynthia Villar, and J.V. Ejercito also formalized their bid to return to Senate in 2019. Nel Maribok tells us why.
Several minutes before the Commission on Elections headquarters in Intramuros, Manila closes for the day, Special Assistant to the President Christopher Bong Go filed his candidacy for the 2019 midterm elections. He was personally accompanied by President Rodrigo Duterte in filing his COC, who later raised his hand as a sign of support.
We will continue and strengthen the fight against corruption, against criminality, and against illegal drugs. But this time, we will do it in the upper chamber of the Philippine Congress. Kailangan po ng tapang at malasakit sa Senado.
Prior to his COC filing, a teary-eyed Go announced his senatorial bid and his promise to still help the president. Go has been with Duterte for 2 decades.
Medyo mapapalayo po ako sa Pangulo, pero sisikapin ko po in my private capacity na tutulong pa rin ako sa kanya at nasa tabi pa rin niya po ako.
Other personalities also filed their COCs today at the COMELEC Intramuros office, including Senator Cynthia Villar, who seeks re-election for her second term. Villar vows to continue pushing for measures that would benefit the poor, especially the local farmers.
Gusto ko gumawa ng mga bagay na makakatulong na maging competitive at saka profitable ang mga farmers at hindi sila aasa sa cartel.
Senator Grace Poe also filed her COC earlier. She also defended her decision to vote for the passage of the administration's tax reform law, which is being blamed by many for the surging consumer prices in the country.
We agreed to support it also because there are supposed to be social mitigating measures built in. Ibig sabihin, dadagdagan ng suporta sa mga pinakamahihirap nating mga kababayan. Yung conditional cash transfer dadagdagan, yung fuel vouchers para sa mga nagpapasada.
Senator Joseph Victor Ejercito also formalizes his senatorial bid, as well as Magdalo Party List Representative Gary Alejano and Maguindanao Representative Sajid Mangudadatu. Former Senator Lito Lapid also filed his COC but refused to take questions from the media. Other political aspirants also trooped to the COMELEC office earlier to file their COCs, but some have eligible platforms.
I'm most honest of all candidates here.
I want to make publicity.
Propaganda. Yeah, run. I will run. But
I am Jesus Christ, pagkatapos magagawa tayo ng death penalty? What kind of government we are?
The COMELEC says that as of today, a total of 63 COCs have been filed for the senatorial race. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Former Communications Assistant Secretary Mocha Uson files her Certificate of Nomination and Acceptance or CONA for 2019 midterm polls under the AA Kasosyo party list. Uson also vows to push for her advocacy to help overseas Filipino workers despite reports that her party list is said to be linked to the pork battle scam. Grace Casin tells us why.
Former Communications Secretary Mocha Uson is eyeing to win a seat in Congress under the AA Kasosyo party list in the 2019 midterm elections. She filed her Certificate of Nomination and Acceptance or CONA at the COMELEC office in Intramuros, Manila earlier, along with party's second nominee, lawyer Teodoro Pastrana. AA Kasosyo party list is advocating for every Filipino, especially those working overseas, to establish their own business. But Uson and Pastrana seemed surprised when asked by the media about their party list's possible involvement in the pork barrel scam in 2013.
Yun ho ay hindi pa nakarating sa aming kaalaman. Kami ho ay hindi ho aware kami sa sinasabi po ng inyong grupo.
Despite their lack of knowledge on the issue, Uson says she will push for the clarification on the matter as well as her advocacy to help OFWs.
Ganon din po ako, ilabas! Huwag tayong fake news lang, ganito, sabi nito, sabi ganyan. Ilabas na lang para matapos ang usapan. Lahat naman tainted, oo. Iba nga dyan, mga komunista, di ba? Mga terrorist sympathizers. Kaya nga ako nandito para po bulabugin yung Kongreso.
Meanwhile, another group claiming to be a legitimate members of ACT's OFW party list filed CONA this afternoon. They also insisted they had long expelled Congressman John Bertiz as their congressional representative.
Siya po ay very arrogant person. And secondly po siya ay liar.
Other group advocating for OFW concerns also filed their CONA today, claiming that their incumbent representative had been neglecting the welfare of their members.
Yung nakaupo po ngayon, sila po ay may recruiting agencies. Kaya po, masasabi namin na ang kanilang mga advokasya ay hindi lang puro sa kapakanan ng mga OFWs. Sila ay tinaguri ang mga bagong bayani. Pero sila, hindi nila nararamdaman kung totoo nga silang bagong bayani.
Magdalo Party List also filed their CONA with Senator Antonio Trillanes IV in support to the group. The FICTA Party List, or Fast Internet Connectivity to All Pinoy, also filed their nominees CONA, as well as the Ayaw Ko sa Bawal na Droga, or Ako Bagong Party List, and the Manggagawa Party List, which is composed of members of Kadamay, Kilosang Mayo Uno, and Migrante International. Since October 11, 70 party list groups have filed their CONA for 2019 polls. Grace Casid, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Ronald Bato Dela Rosa formally steps down as the chief of the Bureau of Corrections after filing his candidacy for Senate in the 2019 midterm elections. Meanwhile, the intense political competition is on in vote-rich provinces of Batangas and Cebu as incumbent officials face challenges from their longtime rivals. John Anano tells us why.
Retired General Ronald Dela Rosa formally leaves his post as Director of the Bureau of Corrections following his filing of Certificate of Candidacy for the 2019 midterm elections. During Monday's flag-raising ceremony, Dela Rosa thanked his men for accompanying him in the past 5 months of being the BuCor chief. Former Director of the Bureau of Customs Nicanor Faeldon will take over the BuCor following Dela Rosa's resignation.
Nagsusuri ako na pinahirapan ko sila, nagiging harshman ako sa kanila para abot na sa punto na pinapahiya ko sila. But I have to do that para reality check. Hindi mo tanggapin na merong mali dito, na merong ka pagkakamali, then wala ka pag-asa magbago. So acceptance is the key.
If given the chance to secure a seat in the Senate, Dela Rosa will push for the creation of a Department of Correction. An intense political rivalry, meanwhile, is expected in the coming weeks as more personalities seeking elective positions in 2019 polls file their certificates of candidacy. In Batangas, Lipa City Mayor Maynard Sabili will challenge incumbent Congresswoman Vilma Santos Recto in the Lone District of Lipa. Santos Recto, who filed her COC last week, is seeking re-election for her second term as Congresswoman. Sabili's wife, Bernadette, who lost her bid with Santos Recto last 2016 elections, will now run for mayor of Lipa against incumbent Vice Mayor Eric Africa. She is scheduled to file her COC on Wednesday. Meanwhile, incumbent 3rd District Representative Gwendolyn Garcia will face off with sitting Cebu Governor Hilario Davide III in 2019 as the two old rivals gun for the gubernatorial seat in the vote-rich province. Garcia issued a challenge when she filed her COC last Friday under the One Cebu PDP Laban Party.
I have seen how Cebu, the province of Cebu, has steadily declined from its number one spot. But I left in 2013. There has been a steep decline to now be belonging to the lower half of the total 81 provinces. In fact, the last ranking was number 45.
Garcia was the first woman to sit as governor of Cebu when she won the elections in 2004. She held the position until 2013 when she decided to run for a congressional seat. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency or PDEA wants the candidates of the 2019 midterm elections to undergo a surprise drug test. Kathy Maglalang will tell us why.
The PDEA believes that it is a good idea to implement a surprise drug test among candidates of the 2019 midterm elections to give guidance to the voting public.
Kung sasabihin natin sa kanila na i-drug test natin sila, hihinto sila yung paggagamit eh. And then the drug test will turn out to be negative. But if it will be a surprise drug test na hindi nila alakalain na drug test pala yun, well, I think it will serve the purpose.
According to PDEA Director General Aaron Aquino, they still have to determine the venue of the drug test and will conduct it as the way they do with their own personnel.
Nagawa namin, we will ask for a meeting of all maybe commanders or service directors and regional directors. We will have a conference sa isang conference room. Pagdating nun, ipapadlock na yung conference room. Nobody would go out. Yung pala hindi nila alam, it is now a drug test for everyone. So nobody expects na it will be a drug test. And then, doon, makikita mo talaga kung sino wala nang makakalabas ng kwarto, wala nang makakatakbo palabas.
Aquino shared that from 93, there are still 85 politicians listed in their narco list, which is composed of mayors, vice mayors, governors, vice governors, and congressmen. The PDEA chief reminds the public not to vote politicians who buy votes. He said politicians who buy votes use money from two sources: the illegal drug trade and the corruption in the government, to make sure that they will win the elections.
I'm appealing to our people na don't vote politicians who are involved in drugs, who are narco-terrorists, who are so corrupt or corrupt politicians. Talagang bumabaha ng pera. Sinabi ko lang sa inyo noon, 25,000 pesos per family ang binibigay. Barangay pa lang ang eleksyon na yan. How much more pag local and national election na?
PDEA, PNP, and other law enforcement agency will be more vigilant to make sure that there's no vote buying. Aquino urges the public to report those who will commit such irregularities to penalize and stop them. Meanwhile, the PDEA is ready to release the narco list to the public depending upon the directive of President Rodrigo Duterte. Kathy Maglalang, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Attorney Harry Roque formally resigns as presidential spokesperson after he takes President Rodrigo Duterte's advice to drop his plan to run for Senate in the 2019 midterm elections. Let's find out why from Rosalie Cos.
Lawyer Harry Roque bids farewell to his colleagues and members of the media as he formally steps down as presidential spokesperson. In a press briefing in Malacanang, Roque reveals he has dropped his plan to run for Senate in 2019 midterm elections following the advice of President Rodrigo Duterte. He also admits he will not win if he pursues his ambition to become a senator. Instead, the former presidential mouthpiece will file his certificate of nomination for the Luntiang Pilipinas party list. He is the first nominee while Senate President Tito Soto's daughter, Shara Soto, will be the second nominee for the party list.
I am taking the advice of the President, while it was always my intention to file a certificate of candidacy for the position of Senate, I will actually file tomorrow a certificate of nomination for party list under Luntian Pilipinas party list.
Roque says he will push in Congress the proposal of the Duterte administration to cease all open pit mining operations in the country. Roque also reveals that his lack of experience and training was the reason behind his refusal to Duterte's offer to be the press secretary. And now that he is back to his private life, he will now be able to express his own opinions and belief.
So it's time to be my own person again.
So meaning you would push for your advocacies before?
Yes, nothing has changed. I'm now back to the old person that I was. I knew that as a spokesperson, I had no personal views. That period has ended. No? I'm able now to freely advocate for the many issues that are close to my heart.
Roque also clarifies he had no regrets in serving as Duterte's spokesperson and he is still in good terms with the chief executive. He also assures his support will remain for the Duterte administration despite criticisms he may dish out in the future.
Even as my own person, I think the President has always respected who I am and would respect, instances wherein I may have criticisms because he knows I do not seek to overthrow him. No?
Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
COMELEC will release the final list of party list groups which will be included in the ballot for the upcoming 2019 midterm elections. For now, COMELEC continues to receive submitted documents from different parties, accredited or not, by the poll body. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
The Commission on Elections is still reviewing all the submitted certificates of nomination and all certificates of acceptance of party list groups who wish to join the 2019 midterm elections. According to COMELEC spokesman Director James Jimenez, they are accepting all CONAV parties that will completely submit their requirements. All accreditation process of parties are not yet done. The poll body will issue the list of parties to be included in ballots by December.
Tinatanggap lahat kasi may mga party list organizations na nakapag-file na ng kanilang mga papeles na hindi pa na-aprobahan o na-disapprove. So habang patuloy yung proseso na yon, tumatanggap na tayo ng kanilang mga nominees.
Like with the COCs of senators, the poll body will scrutinize all the submitted COCs of each party list. Director Jimenez added that there is a 50-50 chance for parties to be accredited, especially when they are able to meet the COMELEC's requirements. Last October 5, COMELEC set the deadline for the submission of authorized signatories for political parties. This will help verify that all submitted certificates of nomination and acceptance or CONA are authentic. This, in turn, can prevent them from being declared nuisance party. Meanwhile, compared to the first and second day, there were more candidates and party list groups who filed COCs and CONAs today.
That's to be expected kasi medyo mahaba yung weekend, medyo tapos na yung weekend na 2 araw.
Meanwhile, Director Jimenez resigned as the focal spokesman for the local source code review after the incident which happened during the kick-off of the source code review last Saturday. Jimenez said it was his responsibility and chose to resign in the said post so as not to affect the transparency of the source code review and the process of the automated election system in the upcoming elections.
I regret that, but I have to take responsibility. It was our committee that arranged that event, and that sort of thing should have been better handled. As a consequence, I have this morning tendered my resignation as focal person for the local source code review.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Up next on Y News. The Philippine National Police assigns controversial CUP Chief Inspector Jovi Espenido to BuCor.
Gusto ko talaga, may embassy ang gana kasi ang hirap kumuha ng trabahante na illegal mo.
Filipino community calls on the Philippine government to open an embassy in Ghana, Africa. And AFP Cavaliers and the Senate Defenders keep their early lead after notching a third straight wins. Thank you for keeping me company in the first part of Y News. More reasons behind the stories with Angelo, Castro III, and Thio after this quick break. I'm Rheena Villamor-Camara. Good evening.
Welcome back to Y News. We pick up from where Rheena Villamor-Camara left off. I'm Angelo, Diego Castro III, and here are the headlines.
We offer to you now a better Boracay.
Boracay begins its 10-day dry run for the island soft opening on October 26th. The Agriculture Department expects rice prices to stabilize before October ends. And a resolution on arrest warrant against Senator Antonio Trillanes IV expected to be out tomorrow. Philippine National Police Chief Oscar Albayalde denies giving special mission to controversial cop Chief Inspector Jovi Espinido, who was recently assigned to the BuCor region. Leah Ilagan tells us why.
Police Chief Inspector Jovi Espinido, one of the Philippine National Police key enforcer of its anti-drug campaign, has been transferred to BuCor from Ozamis City. Espinido was given his new assignment last October 11 but has yet to report from work. Espinido was the chief of police in Albuera Leyte when the town's then Mayor Rolando Espinosa Sr., who was allegedly linked to the narcotics trade, was shot dead inside his detention cell in 2016. When he was transferred to Ozamis City in 2017, then Mayor Reynaldo Aldong Paruhinog and 14 others said to be involved in illegal drugs were killed in a pre-dawn operation. Espinosa and Paruhinog were both in President Rodrigo Duterte's list of alleged narco-politicians. The controversial police officer was supposed to be transferred to Iloilo City this year, but Duterte canceled the order following the alleged demand of Ozamis residents. But PNP Director General Oscar Albayalde clarifies that Espinido's new assignment is part of his promotion and not a special mission to eradicate illegal drugs operation in Bicol region.
That is part of his career. Kasi meron siyang pending promotion. He should be promoted. So ang Thio dun sa pupuntahan niya is for superintendent.
Albayalde also notes that like any other police officer, Espinido is bound to remain true to his mandate to serve and protect the public.
Kung talagang wala naman tayong ginagawa, bakit tayo matatakot? Kahit sino pa maging chief of police or kahit sino pa maging PD or CD dun sa kanilang lugar.
The PNP chief also assures to investigate and penalize police officer who abuse their authority. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue, Kam Krame.
Agriculture Secretary Manny Piñol expects the price of rice to stabilize before the month of October ends. He also clarifies reports on the unimpeded process of rice importation in the country. Rosalie Cos tells us why.
The Department of Agriculture is confident that the price of rice in the country will go down in the following weeks due to the arrival of imported rice. Agriculture Secretary Manny Piñol says the season to harvest palay has also begun, which is seen to elevate the rice production.
When do we expect the stabilization of the price of rice in the market, starting in the market actually?
Piñol also says that starting next week, the public will be able to determine the rice variant that were imported and locally produced. Rice labels will also be limited to 4, namely regular milled, well-milled, special rice, and premium rice. The suggested retail price for rice is also expected to be released by the NFA Council on October 18.
The exact pricing of SRPs will be determined on October 18 when we will be meeting for the final time with the stakeholders of the rice industry. Kasama na yung mga farmers dyan, traders, millers, and others, and even the rice retailers.
Piñol, meanwhile, clarifies reports on the unimpeded process of rice importation. He says restrictions will be lifted, but a set of guidelines and process will still be followed. The easier rice importation is in line with President Duterte's order to government agencies to ensure there is over or enough supply of rice in the country.
The President never used the word unimpeded importation because that would be a disservice and injustice to the Filipino farmers.
Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
The government will suspend the implementation of the second tranche of fuel excise tax under the tax reform law in January of 2019. Let's find out why from Rosa Licoz.
The Department of Finance has announced the temporary suspension of the second tranche of fuel excise taxes under the tax reform for acceleration and inclusion in view of the further rise in oil prices next month. Supposedly, train would add another 2 pesos per liter to the cost of gasoline and diesel effective January 2019. In a statement, the DOF confirmed that the Duterte administration's economic managers already submitted their recommendations to President Rodrigo Duterte following consultations from the Senate and House leadership. The agency explained that based on the provision of train law, if the price of oil continues to rise to more than $80 per barrel in 3 consecutive months, the government will need to suspend the implementation of excise tax increase in 2019. This despite the government having around 40 billion pesos in revenue loss from taxes. The DOF said the government is still giving utmost consideration to the Filipino people who are suffering the burden of high prices of basic goods. Nevertheless, the agency said President Duterte is personally monitoring the price of oil in the global market as well as the price of other basic commodities. The DOF said such measure is one of the options that the government is considering to alleviate the impact of inflation to the Filipinos. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
The Filipino community in Ghana, Africa, calls on the Philippine government to open an embassy in the country. A sports league was also recently launched by the group to gather overseas Filipino workers in Ghana. Rico Rivadinera tells us why.
The Association of Filipinos in Ghana, PILSAG, is urging the Philippine government to open an embassy in the country to advance the interests and to serve and protect Filipino citizens. According to Lenny Ann, the president of PILSAG, an embassy here would ease their burden of having to spend over $500 to travel to Nigeria in order to process necessary documents. As of now, the Philippines only has a consulate in Accra that caters to Filipinos' welfare and consular needs.
Pero ang sinabi kasi sa amin ng Abuja, actually, ang sabi niya unless mga 2,000 daw kami mga Pilipino dito, 300, almost 350 o 360 pa lang ang registered Filipinos dito.
Para sa akin, gusto ko talaga may embassy ang Ghana kasi ang hirap kumuha ng trabahante na ililigal mo kasi mostly walang agency na mag-aalaw ng Filipino from Philippines to come in Ghana kasi nga walang agency dito.
Meantime, PILSAG has launched a sports league to help gather and monitor Ghana-based Filipinos. The sports fest is conducted weekly and will run for 6 months.
Para ma-enjoy ko yung stay ko sa Ghana at para mas hindi ko ma-feel yung pagka-homesick ko sa mga pamilya ko sa Pinas.
Para magiging healthy at saka maging fit yung mga players namin. Yun lang naman. At saka of course yung get together ng mga Filipino community here in Ghana.
Inaabot to ng 6 months pag tuloy-tuloy ang laro. So after 6 months, magpahinga lang kami ng 1 month, then start ulit ng panibago.
Organizers say that aside from providing a venue to get together and play basketball and volleyball, the league will also assist Filipinos encountering problems with their employers.
Maraming mga Pilipino na nagkakaroon ng problema dito. So kaya yun ang benefits para matulungan, para kung ano man ang maitulong namin.
Rico Ribadenera, UNTV News and Rescue, Ghana, Africa.
Makati RTC Branch 148 may issue their resolution on the DOJ's request for an arrest warrant against Senator Antonio Trillanes IV in the coming days. May Bermudez will tell us why.
Flowers, prayers, and letters were offered by those who identified themselves as concerned citizens outside the office of Judge Andres Soriano of Makati Regional Trial Court Branch 148 this morning. Each flower was tagged with words such as judicial independence, integrity,
hope, legacy, truth, and justice, each filled with a message of fairness in his supposed decision on the arrest warrant and whole departure order plea against Senator Antonio Trillanes.
We're just trying to show our support for him or backing him for whatever decision he's going to make. But we understand this is good for the country, not just for any other. Just let the judge does his rule. And we just know about it if he's going to give a warrant of arrest for just all the way we are behind Senator Trillanes and all other victims of human injustice.
The Department of Justice believes that this is a way to pressure the judge. Secretary Menardo Guevara said that even a first-year law student knows such acts to attempt to influence the court is a clear contempt case. Guevara earlier called Trillanes camp's allegations that they are pressuring Judge Soriano as unfair. In a statement, Guevara said such accusations by Magdalo Party List Representative Gary Alejano is baseless and that it is the other camp who tries to influence the judge and ruin the justice system. The official also pointed out that it is not the characteristics of the DOJ personnel to trade barbs outside of court or in media, but the other party's accusations are just too much. On Saturday, Representative Alejano in a news forum said that they are confident that the judge will be fair on Trillanes' case, despite the reports they are getting, which says that the pressure from the government has been too much. But he declined to detail the kind of pressure being inflicted. Even the Makati police failed to obtain an arrest warrant today against Senator Trillanes. According to Makati Police Chief Senior Superintendent Rogelio Simon, the resolution may be released in the next few days.
For today, we expect no resolution, no order.
Trillanes' case was brought up once again after his amnesty was declared void due to his missing application form. Makati RTC Branch 150 first ordered Trillanes' arrest due to rebellion charges but granted him to post bail right after. May Bermudez, UNTV News and Rescue, Makati City.
Defending champion Senate defenders and the Armed Forces of the Philippines maintain their lead after keeping a flawless record in the ongoing UNTV Cup Season 7 elimination rounds. PhilHealth Plus also manages to seize their second victory after clashing with Malacanang PSC Camao. Bernard Dadis tells us why.
UNTV Cup Season 6 champion Senate defenders and the Armed Forces of the Philippines give their share on the Group A lead after defeating their separate opponents in the 7th edition of the UNTV Cup at the Pasig City Sports Center on Sunday. The Senate defeated the Department of Justice boosters 87-72 after blocking the latter's fast transition offense plays to chop down their early edge in the ball game. Jeffrey Sanders lifted the defenders with his 23-point finish, 20 rebounds, 3 steals, and 3 blocks that earned him the best player of the game title.
So halftime sinabi na, we just have to stop their transition offense. In doing that, we should be stopping the ball at all time.
Nung later part na, out of frustration na yung mga galaw eh. Nga lang, yung mga ibang players talaga na-frustrate na. Doon kami nagkagulo, medyo nawala sa focus.
The AFP Cavaliers also scored their third straight win after clobbering the rookie PITC Global Traders 78-68. Jerry Lumungsod led the Cavaliers by bucketing 19 points, including 5 from the 3-point area, 5 assists, 4 rebounds and steals, and a block, earning him the Best Player of the Game award.
Medyo mataas yung moral ng team. Since the start ng league, we'll take it one game at a time pa rin.
The PhilHealth Plus meanwhile gains their second victory after upsetting the Malacanang PSC Camao 90-87. Kenneth Emata's buzzer-beater 3-point shot served as the key to defeating the Malacanang after both teams scored 87 all in the last part of the game. His 9-point finish with Jonathan Aldabe's 36 points earned them the game's best players title. PhilHealth now holds 2 win-loss record, while this is Malacanang's first loss of the season.
Nagkulang kami sa defense namin. Siguro yung ball rotation rin namin kulang. So kailangan namin i-workout rin yan.
As promised, kahit kulang kami ng players, kahit maraming challenges, injury, it will not stop us dahil dito po sa laro ng UNTV Cup, puso talaga ang ilalaban namin para sa beneficiaries namin.
Bernard Dadis, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Up next on Y News. Saudi Arabia vows retaliation if they get pushed over missing journalists.
I want to say that today our planet is in danger. If we make nothing, it will be grave.
Environmental advocates march across France to demand action on climate change. And UK's Duchess of Sussex Meghan Markle expecting first child with Prince Harry. And those are the reasons behind the stories in the second part of our newscast. Y News returns with William Thio. I'm Angelo, Castro III. Good evening.